Hello everyone, my name is Professor Ogin. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Kindly don't forget to like, share my contents. And today I'm just relaxed at home on a Sunday afternoon. Just decided to do some house chores. But something just came in my mind and I decided to have a good share with you. So there is this community or this culture of a certain community where I come from and also the surrounding communities. And one thing I like about them is that they are good at plannings, especially in terms of homesteads. So if you go to these communities' homesteads, so a homestead is actually someone's own compound, especially in the rural areas, whereby this person knows that he has a house. Especially, it must be a he. Most of the women within this culture are not allowed to build homesteads unless she's married and the husband passed on. Then she's allowed to have her own homestead. But as long as you're not yet married, still staying with your parents, then you must be in your parents' homestead. So these homesteads are belonged by these. So something which is actually worrying me is, for these homesteads, they're always built in a very programmed manner. So most of them are always in rectangular shape. So for those who did mathematics and understand about rectangles, you know that a rectangle has a length and a width. So the length is the longer side and the width is the shorter side. Though most of the compounds can also be in square, but if you try to measure how they look like, most of them are always in rectangular form. So the far width, or one of the width, is where the owner of the homestead built his house. That is we call it the big house. So this big house, main door must be facing the gate. That is the lower width. The main door must be facing the gate, and that is the lower width. And then on the length, if this person has children, especially sons who are grown-ups, who can no longer stay or sleep in their mother's houses, then they'll have to build their houses on the width. So on the right side of the width, that's where the firstborn builds his house, that is. And then on the left side of the width, the other son will build his house, and it continues like that, depending on how many children or how many sons the owner of the homestead has. So that is not the point of concern. The point of concern is when a death happens within the homestead, especially when the owner of the homestead passes on or dies. This is where now my point of concern came. It just ran in my mind and I said, let me share it. And I'm sure this part will actually go viral. I'm sure, 100% sure, because it will bring a lot of controversies. But it's just a thinking. Sina ubaya na msipigwe mawe, especially from the wazee, okay? Just a thinking. So if the owner of the homestead dies, and maybe he had older children, so he will be buried within the homestead. And if his son dies when still in the homestead, the son will also be buried within the homestead. If the wife dies, the wife will also be buried within the homestead. So that is how it is. Now, if his son grows and decides to have his or her own homestead or compound, and maybe he had 2 or 3 sons, then these people will also build the same way. So they also build their own house on the one width of the compound, facing the other width, and then on the length side, their sons will actually do that. And if they die, the same thing happens. They also be buried in the homestead, and the chain continues. So after a period of some years, you find that there will be homesteads with the graves. The grave of the owner of the homestead, the grave of the wife of the homestead, and probably the grave of his children who are not matured yet, who had not prepared or made their own compound or homesteads. So there will be so many graves. And one thing you have to realize is right now there is very high, that is overpopulation, especially within that culture. And also in my country, overpopulation is very high. So my point of concern is here when it comes to land. How do you see if suppose, when you are dead and you are gone. But unfortunately, these cultures or these communities actually value the dead so much that they feel like if that person is buried outside his homestead, then it will bring a lot of controversies within the remaining living souls. So it was something that is there as a culture, which is not bad, it's good. But now my point of concern is when it comes to land issues. I'm not sure whether all communities do that. Sometimes belief can pin us down sometimes. So how do you see if these people could have been buried just somewhere within a village, within a community? They just set aside or they put aside a certain place like a graveyard that they should be burying the dead, just like a place in Nairobi, Kenya called Langata, where they bury dead. It's a specific place so that these lands can be free. So if these lands remain free, then the children can actually benefit from the lands. So that if suppose my father died, or my grandmother, let me start from my grandfather, that is, if suppose my grandfather died and he was buried outside his compound, so that land is free. And if suppose my father also has his homestead and he passed on, then he's buried outside the homestead, then that land is free. So me as a grandchild, if suppose I want to make my own homestead, I can actually go to where my grandfather was and build my own homestead because that land is free. Or if maybe I don't want to build my homestead in that area, I can decide to sell the land. Because the land is free, it has no any issues, I can actually decide to sell it to somebody else to make his own homestead. But now, you see, if my grandmother was, or my grandparents were buried in that place, and their graves were cemented, so it looks like a permanent grave. So you see that land, you cannot sell it to somebody, or rather somebody cannot buy it. Nobody will buy a land with cemented graves within the homesteads. So it looks like it's a wastage of land. So if this thing continues for years, and it has been going on for years, that means there are so many wasted lands. They have terminologies that they use those lands. So these lands can never be sold. Even if the person was buried there 100 years back, or 50 years, or 30 years, and the land is sold to a known person who did not know that that place was somebody's compound and the owners of the compound were buried there, it's still at risk because you can actually want to build your homestead there and you dig a foundation only to come out with bones. So that will actually demoralize you. And there are so many things that have been happening to people who actually bought land to a known place, thinking that it was a fertile land, fertile as in nothing has never happened in that area, because the land was maybe bushy, or maybe it was just a farm that was being farmed, only to start building a house. Then after that, you start meeting spirits that are telling you that unatufinya hapa mali ulijenga bwana. So you just decided to build your apartment where somebody was buried down there. So I don't want the issue to stop, but just a point of concern that something needs to be done so that you don't waste land. Getting land nowadays is very difficult, but not that the lands are not there within that community. Lands are there, but people are buried in those lands. You cannot build your homestead in that area. You cannot sell it, so it is of no use. So the only use you can use it is maybe if you can farm it. just do some little farming. And some people even go to an extent of cementing, so that when you are farming, the cemented place, you just surround it. You don't farm it. You cannot farm it actually because it is cemented. So that place remains null and void. So if you are if you belong to that culture and you go to your great grandfather's compound, you find that maybe trees or maybe it is being farmed, it is of no use. So if you are not a farmer and you are not doing farming, then that land cannot help you, because you cannot farm it, you cannot build, you cannot sell it, because it has graveyards. So guys, let's think about this. I wanted to have a discussion within the comments down there. Now utoe maoni yako. Anything good or bad, just accept. I didn't say something is bad. It was just a point of concern. Just a point of concern. So nisipige mawe tafadhali. Kitu tu nilisema tu. You know, sometimes cultures can never be changed, but we need also to consider some things that are happening in the daily life. The world is now being digitalized. So the reason why I'm saying this is because there is a community I love so much. Now this community don't value the dead, and they don't believe on the dead coming back after he or she has been buried. So even no matter how rich that person will be, and he had his homestead, after he's gone, then he cannot be buried within the homestead. They actually find a place and bury the person. So that land remains for the generation. That will come ahead. So that is the best idea that we can also apply to the other communities, so that we don't waste a lot of land. Land is very valuable, land is very precious, and it is the only commodity that does not depreciate, it appreciates. So if my great-great-grandfather was not buried in his homestead, then that land is now free. Instead of me farming, if I'm not a farmer, then I can sell it to somebody who is interested in it. Get the money, go buy a land somewhere, and do my personal developments. If it is in a strategic area, I can actually build some rentals in those places. But who will accept to buy a land that has graves, or buy a land that has a history of the whole family being buried there? Nobody. Who will come and stay to a place whereby anapata fununu that this house was built in somebody's compound and these people are buried here? Nobody will actually do that. So that issue is actually wasting land in those areas. So we need actually to think about it, we need to reform about it. So kindly pin down your comments. How do you see about that issue? How do you see about that issue? And if your community is doing that, kindly don't forget also to put down the comment. If your culture is doing the contrary, that means they don't bury the dead within the homestead, so the lands are always there. Also, don't forget to put your comments down there, so that others can also learn. So guys, that was my point of concern, and it's just a thinking, it's just a thinking. So I should not be screwed. It's just a thinking, because maybe it can bring some controversies within the community. And the good thing is I have not mentioned which community is it, but they know themselves. As long as I have explained what happens in those areas, they actually know themselves. There are so many. It is not only one. There are so many. But one thing I like them is that they are good in plannings, especially in their homesteads. They're good in building better houses. Most of them are always learned. Most of them are highly developed. Most of them actually have big jobs outside here. The big jobs that you can have in our country, Kenya. Most of the communities come from that area. They are good employees. Actually, they are good at being employed in big sectors. But that issue of burying the dead in the homestead, actually, we need to revive it. We need to think twice. We should not be wasting these lands. Some people don't have places to, because you find that maybe your great-grandfather had just a little piece of land, and then he gave birth to so many men. So these men were divided this piece of land. So since your great-grandfathers have been being buried in their homesteads, so those homesteads remain null and void. But suppose they could have been being buried somewhere else, then these homesteads can be reused by the great. I'm sure it cannot happen within their fathers, but grandchildren can do that. Grandchildren can do that. So guys, that was it. Thank you so much for taking your time to listen to this video to the end. Kindly don't forget to pin your comments down there. Don't forget to like, share this video, so that when I get a chance to drop a new one, you will be the first person to get the notification. Thank you so much. Let me go on doing my house chores as I wait for your comments later on when this video will be posted in my YouTube channel. Bye bye. Bye guys.